Hello everyone, specifically hello Ian. This is just a quick demo video to run through your saber, which has been sent over initially for a repair, but it ended up being a full refurb, so we've kind of brought a bit more life into this very, very old saber, which we think is about maybe 15 years old. It's one of the Mark 1 VadersVault Imperial Knight sabers from the original run they did way back in God knows when, a long time ago. It had a lot of problems with it. The battery pack was originally just a bunch of AAA batteries soldered together. The LED up top is no longer in production. It doesn't exist anymore. The switch on the front was a latching switch. It's very, very outdated. And the speaker down the bottom was only a 24mm speaker, and that too also was not working correctly. So this simple repair job ended up being a full refurbishment, replaced pretty much every single part. I think the only thing in here that I've kept is the original heatsink for the LED and the recharge port, because those were the only two things that were working properly when I tested them. Everything else had to go, unfortunately, but I think it has extended the life of the saber, and hopefully this is now a much more improved and has a longer lifespan than it would have before. So let's run you through a couple things. The LED at the top is a single cree LED. We did talk about going tri-cree LED for this one, but it was single cree to start with, so that's what we've stuck with because Ian was happy with it. The speaker down the bottom is now a 28mm KRSabers bass speaker instead of the 24mm speaker that was in there before. I couldn't even find it online. The make and model of it was so old. The button has been swapped for a KRSabers, don't know if you can see that, KRSabers dual action button with the power button at the top and the auxiliary button at the bottom. I've not worked with these before. It turns out that they're incredible buttons. I think they work really well, but getting them set up and configured in the right way based on the retention ring on the inside is a real pain. It's really hard to do. So I ended up having to glue some of the parts inside. So this button probably shouldn't ever come out of this inner chassis, but that's fine. And then the back is just a standard 2.1mm recharge port. And the biggest change of all, I think, is the soundboard inside. It was previously running a Force FX Jedi board, which was very, very, very old, and a lot of the resistors had been knocked off. Previously, the parts were held in this saber just with some hot glue, so they were bouncing around, sliding all over the place, which is, I think, what caused a lot of the problems. So it's been swapped out for a Proffieboard 2.2, which is my preferred board of choice for any saber work. So it's essentially a brand new saber from start to finish. So this repair became a full refurb. And I hope you're happy with the end result. So let's run you through some features. I printed you a kill key as requested, one of the low profile plastic ones. So when the kill key is inserted, nothing will happen. There's no power to the board. And in order to get power to the board and hear the boot sound, you just pull the kill key out. You can twist it, but sometimes it can twist back the other way and shut off the saber midway through using it. So I prefer to just take the kill key out completely, just make sure you don't lose it. So when you pull it out, you'll hear the boot sound for the first of your fonts installed on here, which should be the Imperial Knight font, which sounds like this. There you go. So that's the boot up sound for the Imperial Knight font. It's a very loud saber. It's a lot louder than it would have been before with the 24mm speaker, I'm hoping. And with the new LED, it should also be brighter. I reapplied thermal paste to everything at the top, cleaned off the heatsink, and rewired everything inside. So all of the wires that existed previously were so beaten up that I just decided to strip a lot out and do completely fresh wiring for everything. I did keep the LED connector, so if you ever do want to swap out the LED, it should be a case of just grabbing a new LED, sticking it in, and then connecting it. So that should be quite simple. But I don't think this is going to be a saber that's going to be fun to open. It's not designed with an installer in mind, I will say that. It seems like they kind of designed these originally to be made once and then never opened. It's a real pain getting this installed. As I said, all the parts before were just knocking around inside, so what I did was design and print a 3D chassis for the inside that holds the battery, the speaker, and the soundboard, so they're locked in place and they won't be bouncing around, so this should prevent any future issues. Lost my light source. There we go. So yeah, let's talk about what happens when you've got the kill key out. So when the kill key is out and it's in just standby mode, there's a couple different button functions that you can do using the power button at the top and the auxiliary button at the bottom. If you're holding the saber upright and you click the auxiliary button, you will cycle through the sound fonts. There are 6 of them on here. Imperial Knight is the first one, as I figured that would be your main font, and then from that there are 5 other fonts, which are just the default Proffieboard ones. We left those on there because they're free, and why not? So if you hold the saber upright and click the power button, it will cycle forwards through the list. If you hold it downwards and click, it will cycle backwards through the list. So let's go through and just listen to the fonts that are on there. Smooth Jedi. Smooth Grey. Smooth Fuzz. I think, yeah, Rogue Commander. and then that's the final one, whose name escapes me. I can't remember the name of that one on the font list. And then we should go back through to the Legacy Imperial Knight font when we click it again.
Legacy Imperial Knight.
There we go. So because this is only a single cree LED setup, we can't do things like color changes. So I tried to make all of the sound fonts at least look a little bit different when configuring the blade setup. So you will notice that the different fonts look different. So find a font that you're happy with and stick with that one. But if you get your hands on it and you decide that some of the blade config isn't to your liking, we can talk about maybe changing some of that later, but it will mean that you have to go inside the saber, which could be difficult. I don't have a in-hilt LED blade to hand, unfortunately, so I can't show you the blade, but we will have to just use some imagination when we boot it up, and you can kind of see the flickering, and I'll show off how bright it is and stuff like that. So we've got the Legacy Imperial Knight font selected. There's a couple other functions you can do when the saber is off. If you press and hold the top one and click the bottom one at the same time, you'll enter the volume menu. The speaker on this one does go very loud, but because there's not really a great resonance chamber down the bottom, it's literally just like the grill. You don't want to go too loud because you'll get a lot of distortion. So you can clock it up to maximum volume, which I've set at a pretty sensible level, which shouldn't distort too much. But if you find it is too loud, you can clock it down by entering this volume menu. And then when you rotate it clockwise, it'll go up, and when you rotate it counterclockwise, it'll go down, and it'll beep every time. So you can turn it all the way down to silent, or bring it all the way back up to full volume.
Maximum volume.
There you go. And to lock it in, you click the power button, which is the top one.
Exiting volume menu.
There we go. And then if you click and hold the lower button and click the top button, it'll tell you the battery life.
Battery life 43%.
Just double clicked it by accident. So let's go back. Hang on.
Legacy Imperial Knight.
Okay, let's try that again.
Battery level 43%.
43% battery, so the LED should be nice and bright and the speaker will be nice and loud. As the battery level gets lower and lower, you might notice some weird performance from the saber. That kind of can happen around the 5% battery mark, so try and keep the battery charged up if you can. So yeah, that's pretty much it. We've got some gesture controls. You requested the twist on and twist off, so I can show those off for you in a second. But the power button will be your main source of ignition. So that's the top one again, and you just click it and it'll boot the saber on. It's very bright. Smooth swing. Sounds great. It's very loud. And then you've got the clashes and everything installed as well. Like that. And then when the saber is active, you can do a couple things with the buttons on the bottom. Obviously, clicking the power button will again just turn it off. But when you've got the saber on and you click the bottom button, it'll do blaster blocks. So, like that. And that causes the LED to flash brighter as well. So when it's in kind of idle mode, it's not running at 100% brightness, it's at like 90%. So when you click for blaster blocks, it will flash even brighter just because we need something to happen with the blade. And then if you press and hold the lower button, you'll enter blaster block up, or blaster deflect mode, I believe it's called. Press and hold it and let go. And then when you swing, it'll block a blaster every single time. And then you can click it again to turn it off. There are a bunch of different button combinations you can do for things like color changing and stuff, but because we've only got the single LED, that's not really going to be relevant to you. I will send you a list of the FET263 button prop list that I use, which is for this button configuration. There's certain things you can do. You can play music through it, you can do all sorts of stuff by utilizing these two buttons in different combinations. Can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but I will send you that list. The other thing I probably want to show you is the gesture controls. So to twist on, it's a short, sharp rev, like a motorbike. Like that. And then I'll boot on. It's really bright. Obviously, because I don't have a blade to test it with, I'm hoping it's brighter than it was before. It should be. I imagine it's definitely louder, but let me know how it performs with the blade. It's great, very loud, and then you can power to turn off. As I said to you before, when the saber's not in use, try and put the kill key in it, because while the battery drain from the Proffi is very minimal, and the motion controls time out after I set it for 3 minutes, I believe, there will be a tiny amount of battery drain. So if you leave this in a drawer for 6 months and you go to pick it up and play with it, you may notice that it's not working correctly. This saber should be good for light amounts of dueling to possibly heavy dueling. Everything's secured in there pretty tight, and it's a pretty solid setup. So I wouldn't worry too much about components knocking around inside like they would have done previously. So hopefully this is everything you're after. If you've got any changes or any other questions, give me a shout. Otherwise, I'll ship this out to you as soon as you've seen this video and confirm that it's to your liking. But yeah, I hope you like this, Ian. It is your VadersVault Imperial Knight Mark 1, full refurb. Thank you for choosing to work with me. Cheers.